Standard spoiler warning. If you haven't seen the movie, don't do this to yourself. Everything past here is because you wanted to be here. What's going on, guys? Welcome to Everything Always, Always Everything You Want. Today we are trying to unpack all of the Easter eggs, WTFs, movie references. There are a ton. If you could grab the subscribe button, hit the like button, leave a comment. I'm a brand new channel and I would sincerely appreciate it. If you've already subscribed, thank you so much. Guys, every other line in this movie was another movie reference. It's like they tried to do it on purpose. Ryan Reynolds mentioned there's two other guys who write the jokes and the script with him. It opens the movie with this music box of an impaled Logan. And I really feel like in this movie he tried to keep comedy in threes. So I tried to keep up with that. Some of the specific movies and things that he did and motifs, he really wanted to do the whole, comic comes in three times. So there were specifically three references to Logan. Actually, there might have been more by the end of the movie. So this is right where it starts. And right from there, we go into a Kill Bill referencing sequence. Important to note, he tells Dolly Parton to hit it. That's the song 9 to 5, but it's all from her 1980s movie 9 to 5. And we see specifically from Kill Bill 1, there's the, actually it might have been Kill Bill 2, where she runs down the end of the table, Lucy Liu's character, and knocks his head off. He does the same thing in the same style there. The montage continues to this scene right here, which is meant to mimic Kill Bill as well. The blue paneling in the back as he samurai sword fights a ton of opponents, just like Uma Thurman did. The sequence rolls into this scene here with Dopinder in the cab. There's a shout out to Passion of the Christ. He also refers to Mission Accomplished in a George W. kind of way. That's referring to him declaring victory in Iraq 10 years before the fighting stopped. Dopinder gives a shout out to Interview with a Vampire. As he says he's longing for that. This is Deadpool breaking the fourth wall in here in this scene, as he did several times in the comics and several times in this movie. Once he's into this scene here, there's a immediate shout out to Superman vs. Batman when he says something about his mother was Martha too. And this scene between them where she relinquishes her birth control is a shout out to the original script writing, as they were going to give Deadpool a kid, but decided to go away from that in favor of this script. There's also a scene from Lentil with Barbra Streisand immediately. Then the song that is being sung, he later references as being exactly the same from the Disney movie Frozen. He also gives a shout out to Star Wars when referring to men are destined to become their fathers, which immediately is preceded by the opening credit scenes, which have no opening credits at all because they're all jokes. The entire montage is set to a song by Celine Dion, and it's done in the style of every James Bond opening theme. The imagery, cinematography, etc. is so reminiscent of all of the James Bond films, and some of the motifs are exact cliches from those as well. Shortly after the opening credit scenes, we get this sequence between Deadpool and Colossus in the mansion, and he's calling out Colossus again and the studio saying, "Where are all the X-Men? Why? How come no one's here?" And then he walks in front of this door. Before Beast closes the door, you can clearly see James McAvoy, Quicksilver, Beast. They're all in the room, standing there. And he closes the door, which is weird because those are from the 80s, right? So they're not in his timeline. And the next scene after this, he's wearing Cerebro, saying it smells of Patrick Stewart. So Ryan Reynolds had no problem writing into the script, and Deadpool had no problem calling out Fox on their messed up timeline. He's totally, instead of trying to go away from it, just using it as a source of humor. I thought it was hilarious. He did it several times throughout the movie. Obviously, he's already done one or two Wolverine shout-outs as well. Going to use this scene real quick here to catch up on a ton of ancillary and sub-jokes that are going on, comic references. The gun in the background with the bang coming out of it, that was something that Deadpool had drawn all the time. That's very, very strong imagery from the comics. He also, at this point and then throughout the rest of the movie, uses a ton of Avengers by name. He refers to himself as Hawkeye later because he's dampened when he has a collar on. He calls Domino Black Widow. He says something about Cable having a Winter Soldier arm when he's trying to wrestle Colossus. He says that the sun's getting real low, what Black Widow used to say to Hulk. He calls Depender Brown Panther instead of Black Panther, and he also, of course, calls Josh Brolin's Cable Thanos at least once in the film. He references something that Colossus said as being RoboCop. He also asks about Sharknado. So, I mean, the movie references at this point are piling up. There's also a reference, he says, here in the future about a run of comics where the artist didn't like to draw feet and legs. That's referring to Liefeld, the guy who created Deadpool. There's also, shortly after this scene where they're creating the X-Force, their entrance scene is playing Thunderstruck by AC/DC, and that is definitely a right-on-the-nose reference to Iron Man, as AC/DC was sort of his entrance music through the trilogy, the first Iron Man trilogy that Marvel Studios did. Continuing on the story, jumping to one of the more poignant Easter eggs, he gets blown up into a building by Fire Fist, goes to sign a Wheaties box, and it's Wolverine on the front, which is hilarious, and I think this is at least the second, if not the third, reference to him specifically. If this scene felt very familiar, it's because it's reminiscent of Guardians of the Galaxy when they were entering the prison, yellow jumpsuits. The funny thing is I was second guessing myself. I was like, is this supposed to be a parody of Guardians of the Galaxy? But in the middle of this series of scenes, it scrolls over to Cable showing up. He runs into a couple people discussing the best way to wipe your butt. And Cable, after killing both of them, pulls away in a van with a nutsack hanging down. And there were so many references to teabagging and nutsacking, as Deadpool often does in this movie. But the point that I wanted to make about that one little intro scene is that quietly in the background was If You Like Pina Coladas, which was one of the main songs from Guardians of the Galaxy #1 that set the scene for that. So the fact that they went ahead and also threw that song in the movie means that my early instincts about what this was definitely correct, and it was full-on Guardians of the Galaxy parody. Quickly touching on the part with the Juggernaut, I thought it was interesting that Deadpool says not only, hey, you're my favorite Marvel character, but then lists off the classics: Uncanny X-Men 183, Thor 411, X-Men Unlimited 12. Those are some of the first and best Juggernaut issues. So it's so insane to me that Deadpool's all the way meta. He even knows the issues that character's from, which opens up such a can of worms, but it's not meant to be taken that seriously. Of course, can't miss the Say Anything reference. This is from a super famous movie. I'm sure some of you are way too young to remember it, and I'm not sure it's worth looking up, but this is an absolute iconic scene. Also, let me work backwards real quick because I missed a couple that are on my list here. He definitely gives a shout out to Harry Potter more than once. When they're in the jail, he asks if there's some sort of sorting hat. He also refers to the headmaster of the school as Voldemort. And then towards the end of the movie, we get this beautiful montage with Aha singing Take On Me. And this scene right here is actually a mimic of the music video. It was an early 80s video where a cartoon character got to come into real life, and or vice versa. He pulled a female into his cartoon world. And I thought it was awesome that they went ahead and finished this scene that they had been setting up with that metaphor and used that song to set sort of like the reverse metaphor. Also, one of the references I forgot to include is when he referenced the DC universe directly by calling cable super dark. I'm seeing that on my list as well. Guys, there were so many Easter eggs and direct on-the-nose references to other movies and popular culture in this movie. It was impossible to keep up. I would probably have to see it another 3 or 4 times just to make sure my list was airtight. If you guys saw some, leave them in the comments for sure. I'm sure I left plenty out, and go ahead and let me know what I did. Hit the subscribe button. Come back by the channel. I sincerely appreciate you checking it out. I'm going to cut it to the music because I'm exhausted. It's 5 in the morning. I'm about to go on tour with my band. Y'all have a wonderful week. I will see you guys again real soon.